What terminology should I be using? Indians? Native Americans? Indigenous people? My answer is probably all three. I mean no judgment and no disrespect. I have no bad intentions. But you know what they say, the road to perdition is paved with good intentions. And to narrow the scope of the three words that I just mentioned, I will say that they are sort of generic terms to represent the estimated 500 to 700 tribes that existed in what is now America in the year 1492, with an estimated population of between 5 and 10 million people. At no point will I be speaking for or representing Native Americans, including spiritual beliefs, culture, technology, and evolution. I will be relying on my own experiences for this video. And no matter how many powwows I go to, how much fry bread I eat, or how many times I watch the movie Little Big Man, I am not an Indian. As a genealogist, I feel compelled to do this video. Why? Why do I feel compelled? Because family history is not separate and apart from world history. Without the context of migration, religion, conflicts, science and technology, art and trade, our personal sagas would be incomplete. And the further you go back, the lines that separate and define these things blur and overlap. This is a younger me in my Hopalong Cassidy outfit. Hopalong was a movie and TV character played by William Boyd, who was in his mid-50s in the 50s, riding his horse after bad men. I did not play the proverbial cowboys and Indians when I was a kid. I was much more into Army men and World War II battles. I did watch my share of westerns, but what I saw was not many conflicts between Indians and cowboys, but instead good guys were fighting bad guys who mistreated women, robbed banks, and stole old miners' claims. When I did see an Indian, he looked like this, or he looked like this, a subordinate of a good guy who took orders but didn't take much credit. And he was much smarter than Kimosabe. When I was just entering my teens, I shifted gears and started hanging around with my younger brother and his friends, and my first relationship with a Native American, which was, weirdly enough, adversarial for some reason. Perhaps I was trying to find my way through the pecking order, but I teased him a lot about his hair, shiny black hair, that I connected to the use of coconut oil, and it degenerated into calling him names like Cocoa Crispy and Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. He wasn't defenseless and always had a few barbs that he shot back at me. Truth be known, I was jealous and would have traded hair with him any day. As time rolled on, we got closer, basically because friends are better than adversaries, and because I was one of the few friends who didn't have eyes on his sister, even though my brother did. Lastly, we grew closer due to a mutual love for the cartoon, Go, Go, Gophers. We didn't see it as stereotyping and racist, which I'm sure it was, but at the time we loved the gibberish that Ruffled Feather would spout and then get translated by Running Board. And we loved the phrase, whoopie doopie. More importantly, the Indians were smarter and always won in the end.
Whoopie doopie, we have fun.
Do not try this at home. If you've seen some of my sword videos, you know I have an affinity towards knives and swords. Mumbly Peg is a game involving a pocket knife, and it helps if you're either stupid or stubborn or both. My Indian friend was stubborn, and I was stupid. The game goes way back and has many variations where you try to drop a knife end over end and try to stick it into the ground. The launch points are the fingers, forehead, toes, ankles, hips, and just about every possible body part. The knife has to stick pretty much straight up, and if you cannot get at least 3 fingers between the knife and the ground, you've lost. And you had to match your opponent's width. If they were 3 feet apart, you had to be 3 feet apart. If they were 3 inches apart, well, you get the picture. A few moments later, because of the chicken aspect of the game, it got a little bloody. Fortunately, neither of us got an infection nor popped an artery. What do you do after a bloody game of Mumbly Peg? Why, you become blood brothers, of course. And so we did. What's one more cut to the poem? This is pre-1980 and the AIDS epidemic. Don't try this at home. I grew into high school and expanded my circle of friends. Fortunately, I went to an inner city school, Minneapolis Central, dear red and blue. 1963 to 1973 was a tumultuous time. I graduated in 1971. The war in Vietnam was raging, and I was against the war. I was also emotionally torn because my older brother had gone over to Vietnam to fight. Hippies and yippies, drugs, riots, protests, deep division, and the silent majority. 1971 was a formative year for me. African American history was offered at Central, and I took it. I was surprised by the number of contributions made by Black people and how I had never heard of them in prior history classes. In terms of family trees, there were a whole lot of Black people brought into this country against their will. A few years later, the book and miniseries Roots would come out and tell of Alex Haley's family saga, and it would inspire me to start climbing my own family tree. 1971 was also the year Billy Jack was released. Billy Jack was cool. Billy Jack kicked ass. And most of all, Billy Jack, a white actor, said that being Indian was a state of mind. Interestingly enough, in African American history, I was told that white was a state of mind. It was a status. Well, if I could choose my state of mind, it wasn't going to be white.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway?
The American dream includes Indians too.
In 1971, I read the book Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee by D. Brown. It was published in 1970, and it was a no-holds-barred account of the battle for the western United States from 1860 to 1901. It was not an easy read, and ironically, the massacre at Wounded Knee in 1890 in Pine Ridge, South Dakota, was also the site for a standoff between the American Indian Movement, AIM, and the federal government in 1973. AIM was founded in Minneapolis in 1968. Both incidents at Wounded Knee, as well as the battles for the West, did not end well for Native Americans. The main focus of Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee was 1860 on. But what about 1492 to 1860? If I could sum up those years with just a few words, they would be exploration, discovery doctrine, also known as acquisition by discovery, devastation by smallpox and diseases, 7 Years' War, Revolutionary War, War of 1812, and the Indian Removal Act of 1830, followed by many trails of tears. Or maybe with one word, genocide. In 1963, I was 10 years old, and that was the year that President John F. Kennedy was assassinated. In 1973, as the U.S. government was reeling over Watergate, I turned 20 and got a job in the Phillips neighborhood of South Minneapolis. There was a significant population of Native Americans, and there was a government push to get natives off the reservations and into the cities. I went to work at Phillips School. It was a junior high by day and community center at night. Within 2 years, I was running the swim and gym program, and I was excited to work with such entities as Project for Pride in Living, Phillips Neighborhood Improvement Association, the Pillsbury White House, the Alley Newspaper, Little Earth Housing, Minneapolis Regional Native American Center, which we called Mr. Knack. But beyond that, I was thoroughly enjoyed working with the people of Phillips from 1973 to 1980. At Phillips, I was given a name by a Native American person. I won't say what it is, but let's just say it involves a large forest animal who is shedding tears. This was due to my propensity at the time to sulk, pout, and even cry over spilt milk. It was given in jest, and as I look back, with love. Anton Troyer is a professor and, among other things, has written a book with the title Everything You Wanted to Know About Indians But Were Afraid to Ask. It's an excellent book and I highly recommend it. One of the things he speaks on is the trope that goes something like, one of my great-great-grandmothers was a Cherokee princess, hinting or claiming that they have native ancestry. This or similar statements were common in the classes I used to teach on family trees. Troyer points out that the Cherokee did not have a concept of royalty, and the trope is lacking respect and knowledge of Cherokee culture. Many people wish or claim that they have exotic bloodlines, usually Indian blood or Creole blood. Many people also claim European royalty. The best thing to do is prove it. Finding your native roots can be complicated, and DNA studies don't always have the answer. They can detect native blood, but they can't always pinpoint a particular tribe. Blood quantum refers to the percentage of a person's ancestry that is Native American, often used by tribes and the federal government to determine tribal membership and eligibility for certain benefits. A certificate of degree of Indian blood is an official document issued by the Bureau of Indian Affairs that verifies an individual's blood quantum. There are 11 recognized tribal nations in Minnesota. Finding your native roots can be difficult, but not impossible, and there are resources out there, some paid and some for free. This is just a sample of Ancestry.com records. Not a commercial for the company, but shows that there are records out there. This is an excellent systematic accounting of Dakota in Minnesota, and it would not be complete if it also didn't reference Huron, Ho-Chunk, Ojibwe, and other tribes. I have not started this book yet, but it is recommended and on my list. Speaking of, the books I've mentioned are not all inclusive. Bury My Heart is nationwide, and these two books are Minnesota centered. If you have some book suggestions, please list them in the comments. As I started out saying, American Indians, or whatever respectful term you may use, describes a vast and diverse group of peoples. This has been a reflection for me, and I hope in some way you have benefited too. Recognize our differences and commonalities, respect them, and celebrate them. Don't forget to bite and subside, and smash that no to fixations button.
Tweet, 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 tweet.